Prince Five Weapons. Buddha told this story while at Jetavana Monastery about a monk who had stopped making effort. Asked if it was true that he was a backslider, the monk immediately admitted it was so. In bygone days, Bhikkhu, Buddha told him, the wise and good won a throne by sheer perseverance in the hour of need. Then he told the story of the past. Long, long ago, when Brahma was reigning in Varanasi, the Bodhisattva was reborn to his queen. On the day he was to be named, his royal parents gave a feast for 800 Brahmins. After the meal, they asked the Brahmins what their son's destiny would be. Noting that the child showed promise of a glorious destiny, the soothsayers predicted that the child would become a mighty king, endowed with every virtue. Winning fame through exploits with his 5 weapons, he would be without equal in all Jambayapa in India. Because of the Brahmin's prophecy, the king and queen named their son Prince Five Weapons. When the prince was 16 years old, the king gave him 1,000 pieces of silver and sent him to study with the famous teacher in Takasila, Assyrian Gandhara. The prince studied there for several years. When he had mastered all his subjects, the teacher presented him with a set of 5 weapons. The prince paid his respects to his master and left Takasila to return to Varanasi. On his way, the prince came to a dense jungle. Some men who were camped at the edge of the jungle tried to stop him from going on. "Young man," they warned, "do not try to go through that forest. It is the haunt of a formidable ogre named Shaggy Grip, who kills everyone who enters his territory." Confident of his own strength, the prince was undaunted, but sure enough, in the middle of the jungle, the hairy ogre confronted him. The monster made himself as tall as a palm tree, as big as a gazebo, eyes like mixing bowls, 2 sharp tusks, and a hawk-like beak. His distended belly was purple, and the palms of his hands were black and blue. "Where do you think you're going?" cried the monster. "Stop! You are mine." "Ogre," answered the prince calmly, "you do not scare me. Do not come near me, or I will kill you with a poisoned arrow." Bravely, the prince fitted an arrow dipped in deadly poison to his bow. He shot at the monster, struck to the creature's scruffy coat. The youth shot all 50 of his arrows, one after another, but they all stuck to the ogre's unkempt fur. Shaking himself so that the arrows fell harmlessly at his feet, the ogre gave a roar and charged at the prince. The young prince shouted defiance, drew his sword, and struck at the ogre. But, like the arrows, the sword merely got caught in the demon's shaggy hair. Next, the prince hurled his spear, but that too lodged in the demon's thick pelt. He struck the ogre with his club, but the club joined the other weapons in sticking to the creature's fur. The prince maintained his stance. "Ogre, you have never before heard of me. I am Prince Five Weapons. When I entered this forest, however, I put my trust not in these weapons, bow, arrows, sword, spear, and club, but in myself. Now will I give you a blow which will crush you to smithereens." The prince hit the demon with his right fist, but his hand stuck fast to his hair. Next, he aimed a blow with his left hand. He kicked the ogre with his right foot, and with his left. All he accomplished, however, was to get him stuck into the monster with both hands and both feet. "I will crush you to atoms," he shouted, as he butted the ogre with his head. But that too stuck fast. Though completely ensnared by all four limbs, and his head hanging helplessly like a doll from the ogre's coat, the prince remained fearless and undaunted. The monster reflected, "This is a hero without equal, a lion among men. He cannot be an ordinary human being, although he had been captured by the ogre like me. He shows no signs of fear. In all the time that I have been killing travelers in this jungle, I have never seen anyone like him. Why isn't he afraid of me?" Reluctant to devour the prince, the ogre asked, "How can it be, young prince, that you have no fear of death?" "Why should I be afraid? Each life must surely come to an end. I know that inside my body there is a diamond sword, which even you cannot digest. If you eat me, the sword will chop your innards into mincemeat. My death will bring about yours." Of course, the prince was referring to the adamantine sword of knowledge. The ogre pondered on this. This young prince speaks only the truth. Surely, I will not be able to digest a morsel of such a good hero. I had better release him. Fearful for his own life, the demon let the prince go, saying, "Brave youth, I will not eat you, to gladden the hearts of your kinsfolk, your friends, and your country." "I am free to go, and I will go, ogre," answered the prince. "But the sins you committed in your past life have caused you to be reborn as a murderous fiend. If you continue your evil ways, you will go from darkness to darkness to darkness. Having met me, however, you have the chance to stop killing. To destroy life is to ensure rebirth in hell, as a brute or as a hungry spirit. Even if a killer's rebirth is as a human, it will be miserable and short." The prince taught the ogre the evil consequences of violating the moral precepts and explained the blessings that follow him from observing them. Having converted the monster, the prince imbued him with self-discipline and established him in the 5 precepts. Before continuing on his way, the prince made the ogre the first with a right to levy dues and charged him to remain steadfast. As he passed through the villages at the forest edge, he announced to everyone that the ogre was finally reformed. Finally, armed with his 5 weapons, the prince returned to the city of Varanasi and was reunited with his parents. When he at last became king, he was a righteous ruler. After a life spent in charity and other good works, he passed away to fare according to his deserts. His lesson ended, Buddha said. Without attachment to hamper one's heart, victory will be achieved by walking righteously. Buddha taught the Dhammana progressively until the monk won Arahatship. Then he showed the connection and the birth as saying, "Angulimala was the ogre of those days, and I, myself, was Prince 5 Weapons."